What's going on, everyone? Tommy P here, back with another Naturally Obsessed look into basketball. And before we begin, as always, I want to preface by saying I'm not a basketball expert. I'm just a fan who's naturally obsessed. And today we're going to talk about the changes I expect going into Game 5 of the Phoenix Suns and the Dallas Mavericks. And before we get into it, I just want to say again, I said it in my immediate reaction video to Game 4, but I want to say it again because apparently me saying it once isn't good enough for all the Dallas Maverick fan trolls. So, again, bravo, job well done. Jason Kidd has completely outdone himself with these adjustments that he's made. The Mavericks role players are well outplaying any and all expectations that I had for them in this series. And I've said all along, Luka Doncic is the best player in this series, and because of that is why I gave originally a Suns in 6 prediction. And I did get a little too ahead of myself with those two monster wins from Phoenix in Games 1 and Games 2. But, taking a step back, looking at it as a whole, I don't want to say I expected the Suns to have games like they had in Dallas in Games 3 and Game 4, but I did expect Dallas to make it difficult in at least a game or two. I know I changed my prediction to Suns in 5, saying a sweep was possible, but be honest, even the most hardened Dallas Mavericks fan, with what we saw in Games 1 and Games 2, be completely honest with yourself. Even if you've been watching this team all year long and you really believe in them. I get it. I understand that. As a fan, we tend to get a little too ahead of ourselves. Look at what I've done with the Suns. I completely misjudged the New Orleans Pelicans in round 1, and I got a little too ahead of myself in this series, and I misjudged the Mavericks. So be honest with yourself. With what we saw in Games 1 and Games 2, did you really 100% believe that a sweep wasn't possible? Because I did. I believed it was very possible. What did we have to go off of in the first 2 games to not make us believe that? Please let me know in the comments down below. This is not a shot at the Mavericks. This is just genuine me wanting to know. What did you see if you did not believe that a sweep was possible? Just a question. So, that being said, I rewatched Game 4, and the numbers were not as one-sided as I thought from an immediate reaction standpoint. The Suns did shoot 46% as a team, which isn't terrible. It's definitely below what we've been accustomed to so far this postseason. And the Mavericks, they shot better than the Mavericks as a whole. The Mavericks shot 45%. So the Suns had them on an overall field goal percentage, but where it gets really, really skewed is the three-point percentage, as we saw watching the game. The Suns shot 9 for 25 from 3, 36%, and the Mavericks hit 11 more three-pointers than the Suns, 20 for 44. And what really brought the spread to what it was, the Mavericks led by, I want to say, as much as 18 in the game, won the game by 10. But the turnovers by Phoenix, right? The Mavericks did a really good job of capitalizing on the turnovers and the free throws and all that. Even though the free throw discrepancy was not big at all, the Mavericks hit 4 more free throws than the Suns. So I don't want to say there was a huge discrepancy there. All I'm saying is the Mavericks capitalized on every opportunity they had, whereas the Suns didn't, because the Mavericks in the second half gave the Suns plenty of opportunities to capitalize, cutting the deficit to within 4, and they just couldn't do it, and they gave Dallas the momentum right back. So, again, before I get into it, bravo to the Mavericks. I don't think anyone is overlooking you now. I know I'm not, but I am sticking to what I believe, and that's the Suns winning in 6 games. So why do I think that? The first 2 games, what was the biggest thing that we noticed? The Suns were letting Luka Doncic get his own and doing a really good job defensively on everyone else. They said, go ahead, Luka. You try to beat us by yourself. No one else is going to beat us. And that was very true. Luka had, I believe it was 45 in game 1, 35 in game 2, and the Suns won in very convincing fashion. What changed, though, in games 3 and game 4? I brought up a lot yesterday, and it's been a very big sticking point to using pick and roll to get DeAndre Ayton out of the paint, so DeAndre Ayton cannot take advantage of that size mismatch. And therefore, it seems like because everyone's trying to spread out, cover the ground DeAndre Ayton's not making up when he's out of the paint, it's leading to these wide open shots for Dorian Finney-Smith, who's played out of his mind these last 2 games. Davis Bertans shooting lights out. Maxi Kleber, he's been pretty consistent shooting in this series, even in the 2 losses. He was the only player outside of Luka that was having any consistent success. So here in Dallas, they had their way with Phoenix. Going back to Phoenix, however, I put a lot of stock into what Vegas deems as the spread and the point differentials and all that stuff. The Suns were only favored by a point in game 4, and the Mavericks were favored by a point in game 3. But the Suns were favored by 5.5 in game 1, 6.5 in game 2, and the Suns are favored by 6.5 again going into game 5. That could change, who knows? But from what we've seen so far, it's showing one thing. Home court is playing a huge part in this series. And that's a very bland, cliche thing to say, right? Yeah, home court is home court. You're going to have the... Look at the way the officiating's been going. I don't want to use that as an excuse. That's not why I'm bringing it up right now. But look at all of the... And I understand it was going both ways in Game 3. But look at the ticky-tacky fouls that were being called against Phoenix in Game 4. Really ticky-tacky. Home court does play a part in how officiating tends to be called. And you can even point out some of it in games 1 and 2 if you want to go against the Suns in that. There were some ticky-tacky fouls called against Dallas in games 1 and games 2. I can admit that. I'll always admit that. Home court plays a huge part in how games are officiated. It just does. There's studies that go into that. There's statistics that go into that. It's just an undeniable thing. So I'm getting a little off topic here, but where I'm going with that is I expect a lot of kind of going back to basics, if you want to call it that, of trying to make it a point to lock down Luka. I think you're going to see a lot more Devin Booker spread around between Dorian Finney-Smith and Jalen Brunson, and you're going to try to have a little more Mikal Bridges on Luka and Jalen Brunson, maybe a little Dorian Finney-Smith here and there. But I think they're going to try to make perimeter play a much stronger point in Game 5 because you cannot have DeAndre Ayton leaving the paint going forward because the Dallas Mavericks are getting whatever they want as soon as he leaves. Whenever they try to make DeAndre Ayton a perimeter threat, they're succeeding. They're getting their three-point shots. So, that being said, I don't really have a lot of new adjustments that I think are going to be made because I just think plain and simple, the Suns just got away from what they were doing so well in Games 1 and Games 2. And the Mavericks tweaked a few things here and there. And the games just went their way. That's just what it is. So, I do expect, and before I get into the lineup adjustments that I think are going to be made, games like Game 3 and Game 4 are where you really wish a guy like Torrey Craig was not injured right now, because the Suns could really use his tremendous perimeter defense right now. He had a really rough series in the Pelicans series, which is why going into this series he didn't get a lot of his minutes back. In fact, I think he only made one short appearance in this series. But the way these last couple games have gone, you really miss a guy like Torrey Craig's perimeter defense. And as far as lineups go, Cam Payne, that was no disrespect. Monty Williams, who was just named Coach of the Year, by the way, well deserved, should have won it last year as well. But having Cam Payne on Luka Doncic cannot happen. That's just putting yourself in such a hole. It's ridiculous. I kept watching all the defensive schemes with Cam Payne on Luka, and I'm like, what are you doing right now? You're getting cooked. That can't happen, and I don't think it will happen. But offensively, Cam Payne has to find himself in some sort of groove. I thought he was doing such a good job in Game 1 and Game 2, but he completely took all the steps backwards. I don't even want to say a step backwards. He's back to square one from when this series started. You might want to consider keeping that leash short and doing what you did in the Pelicans series, giving Aaron Holiday a go. I would really look at, even though it would take away from the perimeter defense, have a short leash with your smaller lineup and go Twin Towers like you did in the Pelicans and Suns series, and having JaVale McGee and DeAndre Ayton on the court at the same time. All year long when they've had that lineup out there, it's been very, very successful. It's just you have to be very careful and timely if that is a lineup you're going to use, because with how hot Dallas is shooting the three, that's going to take away from your three-point defense. So you have to be very careful and time it very well. And last but not least, maybe you went to him a little bit in Game 1 and Game 2. Maybe you continue to give Ish Wainwright a little bit of spurts of play and see how that goes. I mean, all the appearances he's made in the postseason, they haven't been bad. They really haven't been bad. It's just you have to be very limited, because he's not a perimeter defender. He's not even really a post defender. He's just a physical defender. If you want a guy to kind of push, maybe put him on Luka. You're not going to stop Luka, as I've said time and time again. Mikal Bridges, one of the top choices for Defensive Player of the Year, my Defensive Player of the Year, but he finished second. Can't hate on Marcus Smart for winning at all. He definitely deserves it. But Mikal Bridges does not look like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate in this series. And it's not even just Luka who's cooking him. Everyone else really is getting whatever they want on Mikal Bridges at this point. And that's just defensively. Offensively, where's the slasher? Where's the perimeter threat? He's been missing wide open threes these last couple games. That's a little concerning. But, like I said yesterday, calm heads prevail. 3-game series. You have home court advantage. There's a reason why even after the 2 disastrous games in Dallas, you're still somewhat significantly favored to win this series. That's because the calmer heads are saying, look at what we know and not what we think. And what do we know? We know that the Suns were the best team in the NBA by 8 games. We know that the Suns were the best clutch team in the NBA by a very significant margin. And we know, despite his poor play in Dallas, we're led by the best quintessential point guard in the NBA, and one of, if not the best coach in the NBA. I'm riding with the Suns. And there's no second guessing on my part on that at all. I'm very confident, and it's ring season here in Phoenix. We're good. We got this. Thanks a lot, guys. I will be back with you tomorrow for more content. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below, and I'll talk to you next time.